In the quiet countryside of ancient Greece, a hard-working artisan named Thales lived a life defined by toil. From dawn until dusk, his days were filled with the ceaseless rhythm of work, hammering metal, shaping wood, and molding clay into practical goods. Despite his relentless efforts, Thales found himself trapped in a cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. His focus on earning just enough to survive left little room for personal growth or intellectual pursuits. He was a man whose hands were calloused with labor, but whose mind was left untended, like a field left fallow. Thales had always been admired for his dedication to his craft, yet he felt an emptiness gnawing at him, a sense that something vital was missing from his life. He observed the scholars and thinkers in the city square, envious of their knowledge and the respect they commanded. Yet whenever he tried to engage with them, he felt out of place, his lack of education and self-reflection glaringly apparent. The more he focused on making money, the more isolated he became from those who could have enriched his mind and soul. One day, as Thales was returning from the market, burdened not only with his tools, but also with the weight of his unfulfilled dreams, he encountered an elderly man sitting under an olive tree. The man, with his weathered face and calm demeanor, seemed to radiate a sense of inner peace. Thales, drawn to him by an inexplicable force, sat down beside the stranger. The old man introduced himself as Mentor, a name that seemed fitting, as he had once been a teacher in the city's finest schools. They spoke at length about life, work, and the pursuit of happiness. Mentor listened patiently as Thales poured out his frustrations, confessing how he felt trapped in a cycle that offered no hope for change. "Your hands are skilled, Thales," Mentor observed, "but you've neglected the most important tool you have, your mind. You've been so focused on earning a living that you've forgotten to live." Thales was taken aback. He had never considered that his relentless pursuit of money might be the very thing holding him back. "But how can I change? I have responsibilities, debts, a family to feed. I can't just abandon my work." Mentor smiled gently. "I'm not asking you to abandon your work, but to shift your focus. You've been living as though your life is a series of tasks to be completed, rather than a journey to be experienced. Start small. Dedicate a portion of your day to learning, to reflecting on your life, and to growing your mind. As you cultivate your inner self, you'll find that your outer life begins to change as well." This advice struck a chord with Thales. It was as if a door had been opened, revealing a path he had never considered. That evening, after returning home, Thales sat quietly in his small workshop, surrounded by the tools of his trade. For the first time, he didn't pick them up. Instead, he reached for an old scroll, one that had been gathering dust on a shelf. It was a philosophical treatise that he had once acquired but never read. As he unfurled the scroll, he felt a spark of curiosity ignite within him. Days turned into weeks, and Thales began to follow Mentor's advice diligently. Every morning, before starting his work, he would spend an hour reading, reflecting on what he had learned, and considering how it applied to his life. At first, it was difficult. His mind, accustomed to the mechanical tasks of his trade, resisted the effort of deep thought. But gradually, he began to notice changes. His work, which had once felt like a burden, became a source of pride as he applied new insights to his craft. He started to see patterns, efficiencies, and even beauty in the tasks he had previously performed by rote. Thales also noticed a change in how he interacted with others. With his newfound knowledge, he was able to engage in conversations with the scholars he had once admired from afar. They began to respect him, not just as a skilled artisan, but as a man of thought and reflection. This new respect was reflected in the commissions he received. No longer was he hired for mere functional items. Now, he was sought after for pieces that required creativity and intellectual engagement. But the most profound change was within Thales himself. He no longer felt the same desperation he once had. His life, once dominated by the struggle for survival, was now enriched with meaning. He found joy in learning, in growing, and in the realization that life was about more than just making money. It was about becoming a better version of oneself. Mentor continued to be a guiding presence in Thales' life. Whenever Thales faced a particularly challenging problem or felt himself slipping back into old habits, he would seek out the old man. Mentor's advice was always simple, yet profound. Remember, Thales, the mind is like a garden. If you neglect it, weeds will take over. But if you tend to it every day, it will bear fruit beyond your wildest dreams. As years passed, Thales became known not just as an artisan, but as a man of wisdom. His reputation spread beyond the countryside, and people came from afar to seek his advice. He had achieved a balance between his work and his personal growth, and in doing so had found a deep and abiding contentment. One day, as he sat under the same olive tree where he had first met Mentor, Thales reflected on his journey. He realized that the true wealth he had gained was not in coins, but in the richness of his life, in the knowledge and wisdom he had acquired, and in the connections he had made with others. His life, once narrow and focused solely on survival, had expanded to encompass the full spectrum of human experience. And so, Thales lived the rest of his days in peace, his mind and heart in harmony, grateful for the wisdom that had changed his life. The lesson he had learned and now imparted to others was simple. Life is not just about what you do, but about who you become along the way.